Under the basket, the melody of battle. Chapter 1 First stage appearance. In the summer of 2008, the sun fell on the court like gold powder, and the protagonist Lin Chen was sweating like rain. He wore a freshly baked jersey and stepped onto the NBA for the first time. The crowd on the sidelines cheered and the lights flickered as if they were about to engulf the entire city. Lin Chen's heart beat like a war drum. He squeezed the basketball in his hand tightly, his eyes were firm. "It's not just a game, it's a battle," he whispered. Lin Chen's role is not a scorer or a three-point shooter, but a pick-and-roll master. Every second of pick-and-roll may determine the fate of his teammates. He took a deep breath and started his first NBA campaign. Chapter 2 The Art of Pick and Roll. At the beginning of the game, Lin Chen felt unprecedented pressure. The opponent is an all-star lineup with a sharp style of play and tight defense. Every pick and roll, he is like a military advisor, accurately calculating the movements of his teammates and the reactions of his opponents. "Chen, right pick and roll," the point guard called him. Lin Chen rushed forward and staggered past his opponent, instantly forming a human wall. The footsteps of the players, the sound of basketball slapping on the ground, and the screams of the audience intertwined into a chaotic and passionate melody. He felt the pain of his arm hitting and the thrill of controlling the rhythm of the audience. In the third quarter, he completed a perfect pick and roll, and his teammates broke through and scored, and the audience was boiling. Lin Chen smiled slightly. This is his battlefield. Chapter 3 Unexpected Visitors. After the game, Lin Chen sat in the locker room to wipe his sweat. Suddenly, a strange figure walked in. The man was wearing a strange suit, his hat was low covering his face, and his voice was low but magnetic. "Lin Chen, are you willing to participate in a real battle?" Lin Chen was stunned. "What battle?" A stranger pulls out a small device from his pocket, and a three-dimensional simulation of the stadium flashes on the screen. It's not just basketball, it's a game that combines physicality, strategy, and will. Can you survive here? Lin Chen's intuition told him that this was not an ordinary invitation. He clenched the towel in his hand, and a sentence flashed through his mind: battle can start at any time. Chapter 4 Virtual Arena. Lin Chen was guided to a huge simulation court. The court is surrounded by a flowing mist, the hoop floats in the air, and the floor shimmers with the rhythm. Other players are also on the field, but they are not ordinary people, each with different combat abilities. Some can accelerate instantly, some can manipulate the trajectory of the ball, and some can form phantoms in the air. At the beginning of the game, Lin Chen immediately used his pick and roll talent. His legs were as steady as a horse chained, blocking his opponent's charge. Every block is a dead end for the opponent's attack. His teammates broke through, the ball went into the net, and the light burst out, and for the first time, he felt the feeling of a complete fusion of basketball and strength. Chapter 5 Mysterious Teammates. Lin Chen noticed a girl wearing a black jersey. She moved quickly, and every time she caught the ball, she was accurate to the millimeter. She introduced herself. "My name is Yueli, this is my battlefield." Lin Chen was surprised by her speed and intuition. He tried to cooperate with her, but found that Yueli could always predict his every pick and roll move, and even adjust the ball path in the air. The tacit understanding between the two gradually formed, as perfect as a dance. "You block, I break through, and I cooperate very well." Lin Chen smiled. Yueli smiled slightly. "Don't forget, this game is not just about basketball, it's also about strategy." Her eyes flashed with an unusual light. Chapter 6 Bizarre Challenges. In the middle of the game, the pitch suddenly deformed. The hoop rises, the ground begins to rotate, and the players are forced to adapt to the rapidly changing environment. The opponent has a mutation ability, the ball can automatically change direction and fly like a bullet. Lin Chen gritted his teeth and displayed a new pick and roll technique. He learned to use the inertia of the rotating floor to calculate the angle of the ball and his teammates, and successfully resisted the impact of the mutant ball. Yueli leaped in the air and passed the ball perfectly. In the interweaving of light and shadow, basketball becomes their weapon and an art. Strange ghostly spectators appeared in the audience, laughing eerily, and their voices were like thunder every time the ball went into the net. Lin Chen felt like he had stepped into a battlefield in another dimension, but his eyes were still firm. Chapter 7 The Trial of the Demon. The game entered the final quarter, and Lin Chen encountered the biggest challenge. His inner demon illusion appeared. In the vision, he returned to his first days in the NBA, ignored by his teammates, ridiculed by his opponents, and all the images of failure resurfaced. You're not strong enough, you're just a small role in pick and roll. The illusion scoffed. Lin Chen took a deep breath, he closed his eyes, remembering the smiles of his teammates when he successfully blocked the pick and roll for the first time, and remembered Yu Li's soft words of encouragement. He understands that real fighting is not only about facing the opponent, but also about himself. When he opened his eyes again, his demons were repelled by his will, and the entire court was shining, and his pick and roll and teammates' cooperation swept the court like a whirlwind. Chapter 8 The Decisive Moment. In the last 10 seconds, the score was deadlocked, and the basketball was in Lin Chen's hands. He and Yue had a tacit glimpse and made the most perfect pick-and-roll cooperation. The ball was broken through to the most ideal position, Yue spun the pass in the air, Lin Chen jumped up, and completed the final dunk. The audience was silent for 3 seconds, and then erupted in deafening applause. The bizarre stadium slowly disappeared, and Lin Chen returned to the real arena. At the end of the game, he held the ball, sweat mixed with tears, and he smiled. This is not just a victory, but also a complete battle. Chapter 9 Behind the Scenes Challenges. After the game, Lin Chen thought his battle was over, but he didn't expect that the basketball world in another dimension was still calling him. Outside the court, a silver-white light door quietly opened. Yue walked to him with a solemn expression. Lin Chen, this is not the end. The real challenge is still on the other side of the light gate. Lin Chen frowned, but excitement ignited in his heart. Then let's go. The light door sucked them in, and in front of them was a floating sky court. The basket was like a crystal tower hanging in the clouds, and every shot could trigger a colorful beam of light. The opponents are even more eerie, not only humanoids, but also flying shadow players and basketball robots with auto-tracking abilities. Chapter 10 The Whirlwind in the Air. Lin Chen and Yue face the whirlwind players in the air and must take care of both defense and passing. Lin Chen's pick-and-roll skills were unprecedented in the air. He used his body to block speeders like a warrior, and Yue jumped in midair and passed the ball like a ghost. On the court, every jump was accompanied by the whistling of the wind, and when the ball entered the net, the colorful light burst out. Lin Chen's heart was beating faster. This bizarre game was more exciting than any NBA arena. He laughed and shouted, "This is what it feels like to fight." Chapter 11 Spiritual Connection. After a mistake in coordination, Lin Chen accidentally fell to the edge of the levitation platform. Yue reached out and grabbed him, and the two of them clasped their fingers tightly and their eyes met. In this moment, they seemed to establish a psychic connection without words. They can sense each other's intentions. Our tacit understanding is not enough, Lin Chen said in a low voice. Yue smiled slightly, then feel every pick and roll with your heart. Since then, their cooperation has become more perfect, and even the most incredible ball changes can be predicted. The colorful lights on the court danced like an aerial ballet. Chapter 12 The Shadow Legion. Just as Lin Chen was immersed in tacit cooperation, a group of shadow legions with black shadows appeared and silently surrounded the court. Every move they make brings a black whirlwind that can instantly block the ball's trajectory. Lin Chen held the ball tightly. Is this the biggest challenge? Yue nodded, her hands emitting a pale blue light. Get ready, we're going to break through this darkness. The two began to cooperate with the extremely fast pick and roll. Lin Chen used himself as a mobile barrier, and Yue controlled the ball path in the air. The Shadow Legion could not predict their moves, and dazzling lights erupted on the field, illuminating the sky like thunder and lightning. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 13 Magic Basketball. At the most critical moment, Lin Chen found that the basketball in his hand became transparent, and strange runes flashed inside. With each shot, it changes its trajectory with the glow of the runes and even automatically tracks the hoop. This is Magic Basketball. Lin Chen exclaimed. Yueli nodded. This is the final test given to you by the system. Whether you can master it will determine whether you become a real fighter or not. Lin Chen closed his eyes and concentrated his will, completely integrating the ball into his pick and roll rhythm. The ball spins in the air, changes direction, and lands perfectly into the basket. The light and shadow in the audience transformed into applause and cheers, as if the whole world was blessing him. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 14 The Ultimate Showdown. The leader of the Shadow Legion appears, a tall player wearing a black mask who has the ability to manipulate the speed of time, changing the pace of the game with every attack. Lin Chen's heart was shocked. This was an unprecedented challenge. He took a deep breath, cooperated tacitly with Yueli, used pick and roll to create space, handed the ball to Yueli and passed it back to his hands, and completed the last speeding dunk. The black mask players were knocked back, the light gate stabilized, and the sky court began to dissipate. Lin Chen and Yueli stood in the last glory, tired but smiling brightly. Chapter 15 Light and Shadow Intertwined. After the light door closed, Lin Chen returned to the real arena, and the surrounding audience was still cheering in applause. He felt that the entire stadium was shrouded in a layer of light and shadow, and there was still a lingering afterglow of another dimension in the air. Yueli stood beside him and said with a smile, "You look like you just came out of the battlefield." Lin Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead, and felt an indescribable emotion in his heart. Every pick and roll is not only a game, but also a battle. It's also our adventure. The two walked silently to the dressing room, stepping into a steady rhythm, as if carving a fantasy journey in the world with their feet. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 16 New Challenges for the Team. After returning to the team, Lin Chen found that his teammates were impressed by him. The coach patted him on the shoulder excitedly. "Brother Chen, your performance today is not just about scoring, your tactical awareness has reached another level." Teammate Xiang joked with a smile. "Lin Chen, your pick and roll on the court just now, I want to ask you if you have practiced any plug-ins." Lin Chen lowered his head and smiled. "There are no plug-ins, it's just tacit understanding and heart." However, the real challenge has only just begun. The league will host cross-border competitions against top players, and their teams will need to readjust to higher intensity play. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 17 Exotic Adventures. On the flight to the game, Lin Chen and Yueli met a mysterious boy, a Spanish player named Leos. He has an eccentric style of play and has a peculiar spin shot technique that can almost change the trajectory of the ball. Rios smiled and said, "I heard that your pick and roll coordination is very strong, but do you dare to fight against my whirlwind ball in the air?" Lin Chen's heart was shocked. This was another challenge. He and Yueli looked at each other, their eyes burning with determination. "Come on, let's see the real whirlwind." They trained briefly on the court at night, leaving colorful light and shadow in the moonlight with every shot, and the stadium was like a fantasy galaxy. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 18 The Stadium Galaxy. On the day of the game, the court is not just a realistic basketball court, but has been transformed into a galaxy scene with intertwined light and shadow by the event system. Fans transform into stars, and the light changes color as the ball flies. Lin Chen and Yueli's tacit understanding has reached its peak, and their pick and roll is no longer just a physical confrontation, but a dance of mind and light and shadow. Every pass, every pick and roll, can trigger changes in light and shadow on the court, leaving the audience in awe. Rio's whirlwind shot almost plunged the court into chaos, but Lin Chen used his extremely fast judgment and Yueli's instant reaction to defuse the whirlwind ball, and every score was like lighting a star. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 19 The Ultimate Galaxy Showdown. The game entered the final critical moment. Lin Chen's team was 2 points behind, and the opponent had already used all the difficult moves to the extreme. Lin Chen took a deep breath, clenched the basketball in his hand, and felt the faint runic light inside it. Yueli smiled on the side. This time, we don't just block pick and rolls, but connect the entire stadium with our hearts. They began to make continuous high-speed pick and rolls, the ball drew rainbow trajectories in the air, and every shot went into the net with precision, finally overtaking the score. The audience instantly erupted into thunderous applause, and the Galaxy Stadium shone even more brilliantly. Lin Chen completed the last speeding dunk, Rios nodded admiringly, and the court turned into light and shadow and gradually dissipated. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 20 The Perfect Ending. After the game, Lin Chen and Yueli stood on the empty court, holding basketballs in their hands, surrounded by light and shadow like morning mist. Lin Chen smiled and said, "Basketball is not just a game, it is an adventure, it is light and shadow, and it is an extension of our souls." Yueli leaned gently on his shoulder, "As long as you are here, I am willing to face all the galaxies and challenges together." The two looked at each other and smiled, and the sunlight shone through the glass of the stadium, reflecting countless colorful lights and shadows, as if drawing the most gorgeous end to their youth and adventure. Underscore 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 un. Postscript. Lin Chen understands that true pick and roll is not just about blocking opponents, but about creating possibilities for teammates and miracles for himself. Every game, whether it is reality or the light and shadow of the galaxy, is a tempering of the mind and will. Yueli became his most solid partner. Basketball is no longer just a sport, but a bizarre fantasy journey, an eternal memory of youth. This game and adventure may just be the beginning, but for Lin Chen and Yueli, they are ready for the next miracle of intertwined light and shadow.